Today I'm going to present you the new version of our server solution, the TrueConf Server version 4.5, which is a very new one. So first of all, we have introduced the new version for the public area. The public area is the part of the web interface of TrueConf Server, which is designed to address typical tasks of your users. So your users can use this area to download TrueConf applications, to connect to your server, and we have introduced 3 new features for the public area. I will time to time share my screen to show you in real action how it looks like and how to use it. So I will switch to my screen. So you can see here that this is a new public area of TrueConf Server version 4.5 I'm using right now. So before this new release, we only allowed your users to choose the application they'd like to use for their operating system. So in addition to that, the new area also allows to see the contacts of the system administrator, which is quite important because sometimes users of our customers ask us, they try to contact our support to help them to join to the conferences which are held on our customer servers, which we cannot alter, which we cannot manage. So it is important to show your users how to address their inquiries, how to address their how to troubleshoot their problems. So now we highlight the contacts of the local administrator of the server to allow your users to ask him any questions. The second new thing on this page is the ability to join any conference by its ID number or its ID name. For example, you are currently connected to the conference, which has an ID which is TCS 4.5, as I remember. Yes, it is. So it immediately transfers me to the web page of this conference. I'm already in this conference, so I don't want to join it. Another thing, new thing for the personal on this page is a new personal area. We created a special interface for your users. I will show you how to get there. I will sign out and sign in again. So the personal area is designed to lower the burden of typical tasks users ask system administrators to do. So now it is possible to use personal area to create conferences, manage conferences, access the scheduler for a particular user. So you can see, we can see using the personal area what conferences I was invited in for the coming days. I can also create a conference using this interface. Please pay attention that we decided to split a typical conference into 2 types. So from now on, it is possible to create a conference without scheduler. To create a conference without specific date and time, we decided to call this new type of conferences virtual rooms. So virtual rooms do not have any schedule attached to it. It doesn't have any date and time, so they can be accessed anytime. So and the personal area allows us to filter meetings and virtual rooms which are visible for this user. It could this user can be an owner of those conferences, or he can be invited to those conferences, and those conferences and rooms will be visible for him from this interface. We also introduced the new feature which is called templates. So it is now possible to create a template of a conference. The template are useful when you need to reuse the specific list of participants or specific schedule of the conference to reuse it often. So you can save any conference settings into templates to reuse them later. Personal area also allows us to access the address book and to use it to make calls or access chat. So any click on those buttons will open the application, our application, TrueConf application, and transfer user to the call or chat session. So we're going to introduce more features to this area. So the whole idea, as I said, is to help administrators to allow its users to do basic tasks by themselves. So the new features will be is an ability to reset the password or an ability to access recordings of the finished conferences where a user participated in. So this was the new personal area, which will allow your users to create and schedule conferences by themselves without your help. Another new feature is the so-called green room. So before you join any WebRTC session, guests and users will be able to check the video and audio quality, and they will be able to properly select the audio devices they'd like to use in the call or disable them before they join the call. So this is important because sometimes browsers, they require additional permissions when you use WebRTC application to join the conferences. So now all those permissions will be requested before you join the call. So you will be able to set up properly all the things you have to do before joining the call. And once you're ready, you just need to click on a connect and no other issues will bother you inside the conference. So this feature is only needed for WebRTC connections, but for our client applications, it's no sense to make this. So because they have plenty of settings inside them. But for WebRTC participants which join your conferences remotely, for participants which are guests which join your conferences without having an account on your server. We also redesigned all the documentation for the server. We decided to split documentation for users of the server and the documentation for administrators of the server. So if I share my screen, you will be able to see it. Just a moment, I will share my screen. So once again, we're located on our public area of your server. When I click the menu, I will be able to access the user documentation. The user documentation address typical tasks users have to do, like how to create a conference, how to call a room and point, how to share the screen, how to find the client application. So all typical tasks are covered here, and the public area and conference scheduling is also covered here. So it will help you to teach your users how to use TrueConf server solution. So that's why we decided to separate the documentation from administrators into new separate documentation for users. The documentation for administrators was also redesigned. So this is our server we're using right now. You can see on my screen. So if I click on the help, you will see that the documentation was also totally redesigned, so we can address it here using the new interface. So we not only like this new interface, we decided to move all TrueConf products documentations to this new documentation engine. It will look like that. So you will be able to address documentation for every product using this web interface, or it will be possible to download PDF version of every application. It's not released yet, so we're going to fix all these issues quite soon. So this was the new documentation area, which is available in our server already, and which will be available for all other products later this month. Another important update and change is changes to the role-based conferences. So as you might know, the size of the role-based conference in TrueConf server, in TrueConf solutions, is limited to 300 participants. So from now on, the new limit is 800 participants. It is a quite large size. I will. Someone asked me to get onto the podium to ask a question. So far, please use the chat to get onto the podium. If you'd like to get onto the podium to ask the questions, we can do that in the end of the webinar. So the new size is up to 800 participants, but in addition to that, we decided to increase the number of seats we have, the number of speakers which can present simultaneously in role-based conferences. So the new limit is 36. So that means that you can either create a large meeting with up to 36 speakers in it, and in addition to listeners, or you can create a very large conference for up to 800 listeners with a limited number of speakers. So there is a balance. So when you select more speakers in a conference, the available number of listeners decreases. When you increase the number of listeners, the number of speakers also decreases. So they are connected together. The larger the conference, the less speakers seats available on the podium. So you have to understand that. Other conferences like symmetric conference, which is basically a gallery view when you are seeing everybody, there is no rows, and asymmetric conference, they remain unchanged and limited to 36 participants on screen. But for role-based conferences, it is a very big update, and our recommendation is quite simple. Use role-based conference as a default conference. Use it as much as you can because it supports additional roles, and it is much more comfortable to control. And when you have more than 6 people on screen, it is always more comfortable, more convenient to use the role-based conference. If your conference size is less than 6, you can use the gallery view, the symmetric conference, and talk to each other simultaneously. But as you'd like to have everybody on screen, we do support that, so you can have up to 36 people on screen, but it is usually a mess, but it's up to you, but it will work fine. Another big update is an ability to remotely control all layouts. So, for example, when you create a conference, you will be able to predefine layouts for specific participants or devices. So, in some cases, this is a quite important thing. For example, if you have a control panel, like a situation center where you have a large video wall, and or it is a very large conference room, and you have to place the host, or let's say the big boss, in a specific center located, specific spot within the layout to make them larger and not be able for other participants to change this. So you can use this interface with a layout management to fix layout in advance or in real time. So real time, I will show you how to use this feature real time. Basically, it is the same. So during the conference creation or during the actual conference, the interface for layout management is the same, but it has a lot of features. So let's try to do that. So I will capture my screen again. I have an application here. It is connected to the same server we're using right now. I will create a conference, and I will invite some pre-recorded videos of some other users. So let's have 6 of them. Just a moment. So now we have a multi-point conference for 6 participants on my screen. In our protocol, every user can change layout. So I can move them around. I can move participants from the layout to a separate screen. So all resolutions are adjusted simultaneously. So this is a typical TrueConf experience. So you can do whatever you want with your layouts. This is the power of our protocol and the power of our solution. But in some cases, operators, moderators, they'd like to froze this layout, not to allow users to change it. So in order to do that, I have to go to the server control panel, or I can do that from my application because I'm the host. So the new interface will pop up, the control panel interface. So this control panel interface allows me to select the default layout for all participants or layout for endpoints which are connected using third-party protocols. For example, most of you are connected using the WebRTC, which is a third-party protocol for us. This interface allows me to select the single layout. Please pay attention, only single layout for all SIP 323 and WebRTC participants in a call. So for my example, I will use, because this particular conference is only for TrueConf users, I will select the for all button, and this interface allows me to select participants for every spot. This is a pretty boring process, so I decided to create an autofill feature, so you can autofill layout automatically. And once it is applied, you can see that I'm not anymore able to move people in the layout. I'm not able to make anyone larger. All layout settings are disabled. No more active speaker activation, no more gallery view or speaker view. So the only way to control the layout when the conference layout tool is used is to use this interface. The idea is to use this interface remotely. So operator or system administrator can remotely do that. So using the same interface, we can create any layout. Let's create a layout like this one and increase the number of slots. Let's say we have 22 slots. So you can see that we can move our participants to any slots. We can add the slot for the content, for example. And once we apply, the new layout will be applied to all participants in the call. So if we would like to change the layout, we have to move it around again. This is quite simple. Another important thing is that this interface allows us to create a specific layout for a specific user. Once I click on a plus icon, I will be able to create individual layout for specific user. Let's create an individual layout for myself. So this is another layout I'm editing at the moment. I will autofill it again and change the layout type for this one. Once I click apply, only me is affected, only my layout is affected. So let's remove all the layouts, and I will show you some other things this interface allows operators to do. It can be used not only to manage layouts, it can be used to manage participants. I can add more participants to the call. I can send invitation to the conference, or I can drop participants from the conference. So it applied immediately. We can also use the same interface for very interesting things. So I will auto-populate the layout once again, apply it, and go to the full screen. So there is a way which allows an operator to remotely control all devices of every participant. The current conference participants are bots, they are not real users. That's why I'm not able to change the microphone sensitivity for them. But this picture shows you an idea how it can be done. So first of all, these overlaid buttons allows you to drop participants from a call, add the new participants to a call. This is quite simple. Mute the camera, mute the microphone, or change the microphone sensitivity. But moreover, it can be used to, this is a bot, you don't have any camera, yeah? But it can be used, this interface, to change camera, to change the microphone, to change speakers. It is a very typical problem when in a large conference, some users are connected to the wrong microphone. For example, instead of their headset, they're using built-in microphone into their laptop, which capture all the noises around him in the office environment, which brings that noise into the conference and affects the conference participants. So from now on, any operator will be able to remotely troubleshoot such issues. Another example is a very often problem when the microphone sensitivity for some participant, especially third-party endpoint, let's say SIP or free-to-free endpoint, is not enough. It is too loud or not very loud. So using the same interface, we can adjust for this participant the sensitivity of its microphone. This is also quite important. So that was the new interface for real-time conference management. It can be addressed from our application. It can be addressed from administrator's control panel in real time. It can be applied for any conference, which is very, very useful to address and troubleshoot basic issues your users might have. So you can do it silently. The operator is never appear in the participant lists. So this the whole idea of that. Okay, I will remove this layout. I will close this interface and I will add this demo conference. Okay, another update of TrueConf Server 4.5 is that it is now possible for system administrators, only for system administrators, to manage and see the conferences which were created by its users inside TrueConf applications. Before that, it wasn't possible for administrators to see the ongoing conferences which were created by users. He was only able to see in the control panel only scheduled conferences, conferences which were created in advance, conferences which had any specific date and time, which allows them to join remotely via the link. So from now on, it is possible to see any conference on the server. So I will show you. So this is the list of the ongoing conferences on our demo server, the server we're using right now for this webinar. So you see that our webinar is going on. So we have 30 participants in it. I will create a new conference in my application. Just click conference create, and I will refresh this page. And you can see that another conference appeared. It doesn't have any topic because the conference was created ad hoc in my application. But I can, as an administrator, manage it. I can add participants to this conference. I can stop it, or I can access it from the browser. I can share a link to this conference which were created by some user, which were not scheduled in advance. This is something new, very convenient option. Another new feature is an ability in client applications to see the list of users which are not connected to this call. For example, you schedule at a conference, and some of the participants you have invited to the call, to the conference, didn't join it. So you will be able to see this list, not only in the control panel of the server, but you will be able, as an owner of the conference, the host, you will be able to see this list of users who are not connected yet in your application, and you will be able to send them invitation once again, or send invitations for all people who are not connected. So it will ease the process of connecting people together for hosts. This is also something new which is already available in our application. TrueConf for Windows version 7.5. This feature for auto discovery is also very useful and also helps system administrators to deploy TrueConf server solution. So the auto discovery function can be used to automatically find and connect to the nearest. I mean, by nearest, I mean the server which is presented in your local network by users. So users can download TrueConf application from anywhere. Once the application is installed and started for the first time, or this dialog can be invoked from from the network settings, it will show you the list of nearest servers. In most cases, there will be only one server, your local server, the server your users have to connect to. So they can click on it and immediately connect to your server. No need to tell them the address of the server they need to connect to. Another thing is, if you have an integration with Active Directory and you have enabled NTLM authentication, once the user select your local server and NTLM authentication is enabled, it will automatically authenticate on that server. So no need for user to enter his address, his username and password. It will be immediately connected and authenticated on your server using domain credentials from Active Directory. So it is very useful and it allows you to create a single sign-on environment for TrueConf application within your domain. This is already available. Another new feature of the client application, which is bundled with TrueConf server, is called remote desktop control. So now it is possible to take control over any content stream any TrueConf user sends into the call. So let me show you how to do that. I will share my screen again. Vlad, please be prepared. I will make a call to you. So I will call my colleague Vlad. Hello, Vlad. So I will ask Vlad, please share your screen. I will send him a message. We are in a different call. That's why he don't hear me. Oh yeah, he got my idea. So now I see the small button mouse icon on the top right corner of his desktop. So once I click it, he will immediately receive a response to share, to get access to his desktop. So now I have access to his desktop. You can see that I can open applications. I can open Explorer. I can open files. So, well, basically, I control his mouse. I can do whatever I would like to do. So the content is delivered using the video, but the mouse is live. I can move it around and can use this tool to troubleshoot some basic issues and etc. Okay, so I will release the control to Vlad. To make this possible, all I have to do is to click on the red icon. So now Vlad gained back control of his screen. So this is also available. Vlad, thank you. See you. I will stop to share my screen. This is available already. So if you upgrade to version of the server 4.5, it will come along with a new application with this new feature. So this feature not allow you so far to transfer keyboard signals. For example, when you remotely control the desktop, you would not be able to, let's say, open the command line interface or send Alt-Tab command or Control-Escape command. So we're working on that. It will be possible. It will be added soon. But for some basic interactions to guide your users, this is a very useful tool. So you no need to tell him by your voice, please click here, go there. Some basic things to control the mouse you can do remotely. Okay, so very important update a lot of important updates are connected with the gateway. As some of you know, the TrueConf server not only speaks TrueConf protocol, it also fully supports a lot of third-party protocols like SIP, Free2Free, RTSP, RTMP, WebRTC, and some others. So the server can be used to connect endpoints, third-party endpoints, let's say from Poly, from Cisco, from Huawei, from Yealink, whatever you have, into the same conferences. So the new feature is that it is now possible to exclude, to remove the self-view of the connected third-party endpoint from the layout it receives. So now the TrueConf server gateway behaves like a real MCU, which removes the self-view and creates unique layout for every third-party endpoint in a call. So it creates, of course, it requires, of course, additional resources of the CPU on the server, but you can disable it and go to the old mode where all participants receive the same video. But if you have a powerful machine, you can switch to the MCU mode. So I will show you how to do that on the server. Just a moment. This is my screen again. So we have a new setting on the server, which is called transcoding settings. Transcoding settings allows us, thank you, guest. We're also quite happy to have remote control. So the transcoding settings allows us to select custom quality presets for every transcoded protocol. So we can select the resolution for recording, resolution for streaming of the conference, let's say streaming to YouTube. We can set the resolution for Cisco Polycom and other third-party protocol endpoints connected into our conferences. So we have increased the quality actually. So now it is possible to render on the transcoder the real Full HD 30 frames per second resolution for SIP and Free2Free endpoint. This is something new. And we can also disable the self-view. This is the new option, disable self-view, which switch our gateway into MCU mode. But it will, of course, increase the load on the CPU. You can check our system requirements for more details on that. Another big update for the transcoder is an ability to use GPUs to accelerate the calculations. So now it is possible to use professional GPUs. By professional, I mean NVIDIA Quadro series. Quadro GPUs are designed for architectures, for graphic designers, for CAD engineers. So it is not a regular gaming GPU, but they are also quite affordable. So for example, if you install 500 USD Quadro P2000 GPU into the PC where TrueConf server is installed, so very cheap, 500 USD GPU, will add support for up to 20 unique HD layouts for the gateway. So the single card will have the same impact as the new 20 cores on the CPU. Just imagine, 500 USD card will replace 20 cores on the CPU. This GPU acceleration feature is quite useful if your environment have a lot of standard protocols-based equipment, a lot of conferencing rooms with third-party endpoints. You can use this GPU acceleration to save a lot of money on the infrastructure. Okay. Yeah. Another update connected to a transcoder is an ability to automatically enlarge and make bigger content stream. For SIP and Free2Free endpoints, that makes no sense because we are fully supporting H.239 and BFCP protocols. So when anybody sends a content to the conference where standard-based endpoints are presented, they will receive a separate content stream. But in some cases, for example, the streaming to YouTube or the recording of the conference on the server, the content will be small in the gallery view. So when you access this streaming or when you access the recording later, the content will be small. This is a problem. So from now on, starting from this version of TrueConf server, any participant who share the screen or send the content in the recording and in the streaming, his content will become bigger and the layout will be adjusted automatically. So when the content session will be stopped, the layout will automatically return to the gallery view in recording. This is also very useful. Let's summarize what I said about the new transcoder options. So first of all, the support for 1080p video for CPAN 323 endpoints. So before that, the maximum resolution rendered for CPAN 323 endpoints was limited to 720p. Now it was increased to 1080p with 30 frames per second. Second, now you can install GPU on the PC where TrueConf server is installed to dramatically increase its gateway performance, which is required when you have a lot of CPAN 323 endpoints in your environment. And we're also allowed to create custom transcoding presets, so you can select different resolutions for streaming, for WebRTC sessions, for CPAN 323 devices, and for the recordings. Another big update is full support of 60 frames per second. Some cameras, there are not many of them, but some cameras, they actually support this very high frame rate. For example, Logitech Rally and Logitech Brio webcam, they have support for 60 frames per second. So in our application, you can click here, I will show you. If you click this checkbox, extended frame rate, my laptop camera do not support this feature, but the Rally camera, which I'm using right now, already in this 60 frames per second mode. So I will be able to show you from this application. So we will be able to capture, once we enable this checkbox, the video from the camera in with 60 frames per second, and it will allows us to make point-to-point calls in a very live quality. So from my experience, the 720p 60 frames per second is usually better than 1080p 30 frames per second. And there is no limit on resolution. So if you have a nice camera, if you have, let's say, Intel i7 CPU, the resolution can be up to 1440p. So this is called Quad HD resolution with 60 frames per second. This is something new. So before, many of you knows that we do fully support 4K conferences and 4K point-to-point calls, but 4K is limited to 30 frames per second. Now we introduce the support for 60 frames per second, but for a little bit larger, a little bit smaller resolutions for up to Quad HD, which is 1440p or 1080p or 720p if your camera and CPU allows it. And another update, it will be the last important update I'd like to cover for this webinar, is the direct streaming for YouTube. So on the server, you can create the so-called streaming preset. So let me show you. So in the settings of our server, we have a lot of presets created for streaming. So now it is possible to create a preset for YouTube. You only have to put the address of YouTube server and the secret key, which is available inside your YouTube channel settings. Once you create such preset and save it, it will be possible to assign this preset to any conferences. So I will show you. We just finished the conference earlier today on a Russian language for this server. And if I go to the settings of this conference, you will see that the streaming is enabled for that conference using the preset. It could be any preset. So that means then that when any participant join this conference, the streaming on YouTube will start automatically. You don't need to do anything. So that's it. That's all important updates I'd like to share with you, but we have many of them in the changelog of the server. So the changelog, the full changelog for TrueConf Server 4.5 will be available by next Tuesday, I guess. So we're working on it. We just released the Russian version of the changelog, so we're translating it, and English version will be available shortly. Okay, guys. Okay, so the new version is already available for download. So feel free to go to our website and to download it. To upgrade the existing version of TrueConf Server to the new version, you either need to have a 1-year license that automatically allows you to upgrade. The 1-year license customers can upgrade anytime. The customers who have free version also are eligible for free update because they're using the free version. And the customers who are using the lifetime license, you have to ask your reseller or your manager to receive an update. And during the update procedure, please follow our recommendations, which are described in the knowledge base on our website. Please properly make a backup of your server before upgrading. This is an important thing. Well, the remote control for macOS, I don't have any date. I don't have any date for Mac remote control, but it will come later, I believe. It will definitely be done because the Windows application is actually a macOS application. It is the same application with a different skin, with a different environment around it, but the core is the same. So when we update the next version of Mac application with a new engine, which is already implemented for Windows application, it will automatically receive all the functions of Windows application, so it will be quite soon. The free version, so everything I covered today, most of the things except the gateway are available in the free version already. Even I think free version also has one free SIP connection, so it's all the features are available on the free version. And the client applications comes along. So when you download the new version of the server, the client application 7.5 will already be there, or you can download it from our website. So from anywhere. Thank you. So 15 minutes. I'd like to respect your time. I'd like to say that please be safe. This is a very difficult times for all of us. A lot of limitations for traveling. So please be safe. Please use video conferencing and advise your customers to use video conferencing and use TrueConf, of course. So thank you once again and see you soon, guys. Have a nice day. Goodbye, everybody.